So up front, yes, the Cerapads are probably the best mouse pads available right now. But at a premium price, you'll probably want to know which mouse pad you want to go with before you drop that much money. So let's figure out which one is right for you, and also talk about my interactions with TJ Exclusives, who makes these mouse pads. It was a crazy positive experience. So the Cerapad and the Cerapad KIN are made out of a tempered glass core with a ceramic coating on top. Using ceramic for the top coat was very clever, since ceramic is well known for being very abrasion and friction resistant. These qualities really make it ideal for use as a mouse pad, and will likely keep this mouse pad going for a lifetime, especially if you're using PTFE skates. So when it comes to mouse pads, I have a couple priorities. The first one isn't actually the surface quality in terms of speed or control. My actual #1 priority for mouse pads is consistency and, by extension, durability. Getting good at anything in life requires practice and consistency over time. Say you were to find the perfect mouse pad, the perfect amount of speed or control, whatever it is that you prefer. If it feels perfect and fantastic up front, but wears down over a month or two, well, there goes all that muscle memory you've been working on to get better at aiming in-game. If you have to continually adjust to an ever-changing mouse pad surface, well, there goes all of that muscle memory that's really the #1 priority in terms of getting better at aim that you've been working on all this time. So honestly, if aim accuracy is your goal, you're doing first-person shooters, anything where aim or precision is involved, these mouse pads are definitely the top pick. So starting off with the original Cerapad, it is probably the slickest and fastest surface that I've tested to date. It's a little bit weird though, because there's just enough stopping power to keep it from feeling overly floaty. Like, it actually has a little bit less dynamic friction than a Skypad 2.0, but also does have a touch more stopping power. It also has close to 0 initial friction as well, so moving from a dead stop is easy peasy. The grip pads on the bottom of the Cerapad are very, very thin, kind of a rubber texture to them. They grip very well on my laminate desk without any issues. And the fact that they're so thin is actually a pretty nice bonus, because it doesn't raise it too high off of the desk surface. Hard edges like those on the hard pads can get a little bit annoying on your forearm if they're raised up too high, so it was very smart to include really thin pads like that. Now, an unfortunate side effect of that semi-gloss, smooth, fast surface is it's very, very prone to picking up smudges and oil marks from your skin. You also absolutely have to use a sleeve with this pad. Because it's so smooth and semi-gloss, it's really tacky on your skin if you have your forearm on it, so it'll drag like crazy. What I ended up doing is using a UV hiking sleeve that I use just when I go outdoors, and it works perfectly. Now, one positive about the Cerapad is that there's no weave direction, since it's just a regular hard pad, so you can just pick up any random arm sleeve that you want to use, and it should work without any issues. I mean, the one I used is just an outdoor hiking sleeve. It's not made for gaming, but it worked perfectly. When you first get it, it will feel only moderately fast. It'll feel fairly quick, but not as quick as I'm making it sound right now. But once you break it in, it is Sonic the Hedgehog levels of crazy fast. Tracking targets and switching between targets is definitely a very, very strong point of this mousepad. And the fact that the surface is so consistent is a huge plus too. Now for the Cerapad KIN. Ooh boy, dudes and dudettes. I really like this pad. It's a blast to use. So it's built pretty much the same way as the original Cerapad, but the KIN uses a different ceramic top coating. It's actually more of a dark gray color instead of the black on the original Cerapad, and it has a very matte surface compared to the semi-gloss surface of the original. TJ Exclusive says that this is a very much control-oriented mouse pad, but it also reduces a lot of that tackiness on the skin from the original, and they definitely succeeded in doing so. I find that I can use the KIN Cerapad without a sleeve, no issues at all. And like they said, it is a very, very controlled surface. There is a touch of initial friction, but not anything too bad. It's not comparable to like a GSRSC or something like that. And the dynamic friction as well as the stopping power are just right, so that switching to a target is not that hard, but aim where you're required to stop on target and hit that initial shot felt fantastic. And it's really nice because most hard pads are made with speed in mind. I think this is really the only hard pad available right now that gets control down to a T. And the fact that it's highly durable and made with ceramic means that it's a control surface that's going to last you forever, which is something that control pads are really not very well known for. They're typically more leaning towards the less durable side. I'm looking at you, QCK and GSR. You guys are just no fun. So I've previously used the Skypad 2.0 for quite a while, and I do notice that there are some pros and cons going between the two. Both Cerapads are a lot quieter to use. The Skypad really kind of had this kind of cheese grater, almost like a sandpaper quality to it. When you're swiping on the Skypad, it's really loud and very noticeable. The KIN and the original Cerapads do have a little bit of noise, like more than you would get from just a cloth pad, but it is way, way less compared to this Skypad. I also like the feet on the Cerapad much more than the Skypad, at least the default ones that come with it. They're a lot thinner on the Cerapad. The ones on the Skypad are definitely grippy, but they're very thick, so it raises the pad off your desk quite a bit. And raising it off means that you're getting a lot more pressure from that edge on your forearm, and it just wasn't as good. Now, one thing about the Skypad is you really didn't have to clean it all that often. Now you need to get the dust off because dust will make using it pretty miserable, but it really didn't smudge up at all. Whereas the original Skypad smudges up pretty rapidly, especially if you're using it without a sleeve. But that is one problem the KIN fixed. And speaking of the sleeve, the Skypad 2.0, I really felt like I didn't need to use a sleeve at all. In fact, I actually had tried it back when I was using it for the most part, and I didn't notice a huge benefit to it. It was just kind of an inconvenience, so I used it without a pad, no problem. But again, that's another issue that the KIN solves. You really don't need a sleeve for that one either. The last thing is the corners. The Cerapads both have pretty sharp angles at the corners. If you bumped into them, it could probably be pretty uncomfortable. It hasn't happened to me, but if you did bump into it, it'd probably hurt. And the Skypad has rounded corners at each of the 4 corners, so that wasn't really an issue with that one. But again, I don't really think that's a huge deal since it's going to be on your desk, and it's pretty low to the surface of the desk, so as long as it's not raised up, you're not really going to be at risk for bumping it with your forearm or something. All right, so let's get to gecko grading these two pads. For gaming usage, I give the KIN a 10 out of 10 and the original a 9 out of 10. There's really nothing missing from either of these pads in terms of gaming usage. It's really down to preference. Do you like a speedy, fast pad, or do you want a more controlled, slow pad? The only thing that brings the score down a little bit for the original Cerapad is the fact that you kind of really need to use that sleeve, and that is a little bit of an inconvenience, especially if you're not used to it. It can feel kind of weird. Using the sleeve just kind of bothered me with my aim. It just didn't feel quite right. So I used it without the sleeve, and I did plenty fine, but it wasn't great. And having to deal with that every time you pull out the Cerapad is a little bit of an inconvenience. So for everyday use, it's not quite as recommended. I'd give it a 5 out of 10 for the KIN and a 3 out of 10 for the original. The KIN is definitely suitable for day-to-day use. It wouldn't be my initial recommendation, but you could definitely use it for that. You could technically argue that it actually kind of increases your overall surface area on your desk since it's a hard pad, and like you could do something like fill out a form on the pad. But I personally would not do something like that with something like this. This is a very high cost mouse pad that's for gaming. That's not really a good idea. So if for some reason I needed more desk space to do some tinkering or do some writing or drawing, I really wouldn't want to move this pad out of the way. And if it's a soft pad, that's super easy to just roll up, move out of the way, just chuck it off to the side. With this, it's a heavy glass piece of functional art. I really would want to be more careful with moving it around, and it would be a little bit more inconvenient to do so. For the original Cerapad, it's definitely not very good for just day-to-day use. You can get away with it for sure, but it's really not made with that in mind. And the fact that it gets so tacky so easily with even just the littlest amount of oil or sweat on your skin makes it kind of an inconvenience to use for just your day-to-day editing or just desk work. When it comes to cost to value, this one was kind of interesting. I give them both a 10 out of 10. These suckers are expensive. And yes, they're just mouse pads. But a mouse pad makes a very, very big difference in your gaming performance, honestly, even more than a gaming mouse. If these are outside of your budget, There are plenty of other mousepads that have similar performing surfaces at a much more price-friendly budget. But one nice thing about the Cerapads is there's a crap load of different sizes. I have 3 different sizes here. I have the original. This is the smallest size Cerapad. This is the KIN, and this is really the most budget-friendly one. It's not huge, but it's enough that most people would be able to use it without too much issue. I use this quite a bit, and this was pretty good for casual gaming, though I would prefer a little bit more space, real estate, if I was doing something more competitive. This is 2 sizes up. This is the KIN in the, what is that name? They've got a bunch of really cool names. Iridium. This is the Iridium. And as you can see, it's a big boy. It's a big boy. A lot of real estate on this mouse pad. This is really good. I find this to be perfect, just enough size for use for competitive use. And if you are just a straight up mad lad, they've got the osmium size. This is the biggest size that they have on the TJ Exclusives website. Just as tall as the Iridium size, but very, very wide. So in my opinion, that left to right dimension is really the most important dimension. If you're not using a really big desk with a lot of space, you might not want to use this, but having this much space is kind of nice. So with so many different sizes available, it really makes these pads pretty flexible in terms of how much space you have on your desk, as well as how much you want to spend on the pad itself. With how many options are available in terms of sizing and the budget, as well as a speed and a control version, and the fact that these will probably last a lifetime of usage, these are definitely worth the price. The other thing to consider is customer service, and I've got a good story for you. So I bought the Cerapads out of my own money, at least the first ones that I got. I got the original Cerapad from Lethal Gaming Gear, and I've got the KIN from TJ Exclusives website directly. The only thing is, with the original Cerapad, I noticed it was getting actually quite a few scratches on it really early on in usage. So I got in touch with TJ Exclusives, I emailed them, and I deliberately avoided letting them know that I was doing any kind of review or anything like that, to avoid any kind of bias and that sort of thing. It looks like some of the pads from the very first batch or two were having some issues with scratching and everything, but that isn't the normal. That's not how they should perform at all. So they sent me a replacement, no hassle, super easy. And they really stand behind and believe in the product that they're making. Nowadays, that's pretty hard to run into. Customer service like that is super valuable. So that type of customer service in combination with just how long these pads will last, it's a really good cost to value. Now, for my personal opinion on both of these pads, I give the KIN a 9 out of 10 and the original Cerapad a 6 out of 10. For me, I just performed super well on the KIN, and it was just fun to use, which is weird because previously I've always preferred speed pads over control pads, but after using the KIN, like, I don't know anymore. It's super nice. And beyond that, it's also just a lot more convenient compared to the original Cerapad in terms of just everyday use. Not having to worry about that tackiness that comes with the original Cerapad is a big plus. And like I was saying earlier, the consistency of the surface long term is really what's gonna help you get better with that muscle memory. So these are both really, really good investments. So altogether, that brings the original Cerapad to a grade of 7 out of 10 and 8.5 out of 10 for the KIN. These are just really good gaming mouse pads, and if you're someone who's looking to improve their gaming performance, a long-lasting, consistent pad like the Cerapad KIN or the Cerapad Original is definitely going to be a very useful tool for getting you there. Now, these definitely aren't budget picks up front, but the fact that the customer service is so good goes a very long way when you're dropping this much money on something like a mouse pad. And that long-term performance in the consistency of these surface qualities, as well as just the lifetime usage of it, mean that your practice in-game will translate to better gains further down the road. Okay, so this video is already super long, so I'm gonna keep this quick. After I got done recording, imported all my video, started editing, I was putting away the Cerapads, and I noticed on the original Cerapad, the largest one, there were some scratches on it, same as I had found on my previous Cerapad that I got replaced. Along with that, I also noticed there's actually a chip of the ceramic coming off, and I didn't drop anything on it, I didn't get anything abrasive on it, so I'm not sure what's going on here. The KIN, however, is doing much better. However, the chip on the original Cerapad is definitely pretty concerning to me. I'm keeping them both super clean, so I don't think it could be dust or anything like that, especially the original, since it gets smudges and everything so quickly. The only thing I can think of is maybe the spray cleaner I'm using. I'm using a spray cleaner called Sprayway. It's a ammonia-free glass cleaner. I think I got it from Costco or something. But I am using a microfiber cloth too, so I know for sure it's not the cloth. So maybe it's the spray I'm using? But just so you guys know, maybe if you do get this pad, avoid using Sprayway cleaner. But I want you guys to know, because I just feel like that's super important. But I seriously cannot re-record this video again. I've already re-recorded it twice, so I just don't have time to redo the whole thing. But just so you guys know up front, I do still think that customer service that I got from TJ Exclusives is top-notch. They were super helpful, and that was without them even knowing that I was planning on doing a review at all. But just for that transparency, scratches are showing up, and I haven't even really been using it all that much. Maybe 7 hours or so, 6-7 hours on the original Cerapad replacement that I got. They're very small scratches and they're not affecting the performance. But the one that I'm most worried about is that chip. So either I just got another Cerapad from one of the bad batches, or maybe it's the spray I'm using. I don't know. But I also looked up other reviewers. None of them are having these issues. So something weird is happening. Maybe I'm just unlucky. But anyway, that's it. I just wanted to tack this on. But yeah, thank you guys so much. Bye. If you like the way that the original Cerapad sounds, but are looking for something a little bit more budget friendly, I made a video on the Vancer Ice, which I think is a very good alternative. But until next time, God bless, take care, and I'll see you in the next one, okay? Later.